everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining me right here on Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's now time for lesson 85, and today let's talk about natural disasters. You know what a disaster is, but when you add natural to disaster and add an S, we're talking about things that happen and we don't really have an explanation for it. Things that happen naturally, for example, like volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and even tsunamis. Things like that are uncontrollable and that happen around us, around the world, naturally. We can talk about these disasters or natural disasters, and while we're at it, even talk about fatalities as well, because these disasters sometimes cause death. So a lot of people do lose their lives in these natural disasters. There's a lot to talk about and a lot to go over, so let's begin with actual talk.
A little bit out of the blue, Rachel, but have you ever experienced a natural disaster?
No, actually. I've been lucky enough that I've never had to experience like tornadoes or typhoons.
I thought there were quite a lot of tornadoes in America.
There
like hurricanes
are. That's true. Maybe some strong torrential rainfall, but not anything like a hurricane where I live.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's
but
easy.
What about the UK? Are they in a geographically special location?
I think so. They're in a very safe zone because although we're famous for getting lots of rainfall, like London, it rains, I think, nearly half the year. But there's no extreme weather happenings or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's no natural disasters, no volcanoes or earthquakes or typhoons or hurricanes, nothing like that. So I think I was pretty fortunate because I see on the news that some of the effects of these natural disasters are terrible.
Oh my goodness. Just recently, too, I think in the Philippines, they had one of the strongest typhoons this year.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think the fatalities were in the really high numbers.
Yeah, running to thousands and thousands. And in that case, there's nothing you can do because the country is a little bit underdeveloped in certain areas,
Right.
So you can't really avoid the flooding. There isn't the infrastructure in place to evacuate people quick enough.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing about natural disasters is that it's just out of your control. You can't really tell Mother Earth or Mother Nature, what you want and what you don't want. So
Absolutely.
It's really hard. And the best thing to do, I guess, is to prepare for it, right? So if authorities tell you to evacuate, I think you should. I know that lots of people find affinity to their homes and they don't want to leave it.
Yeah.
But when the authorities say evacuate, it's important to evacuate and be prepared just for the worst.
Yeah, and in places that are hit by earthquakes often or volcanic eruptions, stuff like that, I think it's good to have an emergency plan, like be prepared and go through drills and things like that. I think they do that in many schools in those areas.
It's a good thing, too.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Now it's time for us to go over today's actual talk conversation. Are you ready for it? Now, Peter and Rachel, as always, they help us out wonderfully. They've mentioned some words that may have sounded unfamiliar to you, so hold your worries. We'll go over them one by one, okay? All right, here we go. Peter begins by saying, a little bit out of the blue, Rachel. But, and he goes on. Now, out of the blue, as you see, is underlined, which means it is one of our patterns for today. If you say that something is out of the blue, it means that it's sudden, it's unexpected. So, out of the blue. But, have you ever experienced a natural disaster? We're talking about a type of any experience with a natural disaster. Well, Rachel says no, actually. So she's saying, personally, no, I have not experienced a natural disaster. I've been lucky enough that I've never had to experience tornadoes or typhoons. Now, we're going to hear a lot of these words as we're talking about climate change and global warming and pollution and so on and so forth. But here we have tornado, tornadoes, tornado라고 하죠. And also 태풍, as I did mention the other day, we're talking about typhoons. So she's saying she was very fortunate very lucky not to have experienced anything like tornadoes or typhoons. Now, Peter says, I thought there were quite a lot of, meaning many, several, tornadoes in America, like or such as hurricanes. 허리케인이라고 하죠. 허리케인이 아니라 hurricane. Hurricanes. Hurricanes. Now she says there are quite a number of hurricanes. There are many hurricanes that occur. Maybe some strong torrential rainfall. So we know strong and we know rainfall, but what is torrential? Okay, torrential is a strong gust of something. So if we say torrential rainfall, we're saying lots of rain, sudden rain, a downpour of rain. Usually rain that falls with very strong winds, for example, torrential rainfall, but not anything like a hurricane where I live. Okay, so she's saying, well, maybe I have experienced some rainfall, but not anything like a hurricane. And then she asks, well, what about in the UK? Okay, what about in the UK? Peter says, the UK is in a very safe zone, meaning a very safe area, okay, because although we're famous for, we are known for, we are popular for getting lots of rainfall, in London, it rains, I think, nearly half the year. What does that mean? Okay, half the year means 6 months out of 12 months. Nearly, 거의, almost. So he's saying, well, in the UK, yeah, it is a safe zone, but it does rain a lot. It rains nearly half the year, meaning almost 6 months of a year we get rainfall, some rain. But there are no extreme weather happenings. We went over extreme weather events, extreme weather conditions. Also, he's talking about no extreme weather happenings. You might even hear weather patterns as well. He's talking about extremity, okay? The severity of something, the greatest severity. So no extreme weather happenings. There are no natural disasters, no volcanoes, no earthquakes, no typhoons, nor hurricanes, nothing like that. Now, I've circled a lot of the no's. He's saying no this, no that, no that, no this, nor this. Usually in the negative form, okay? You would say neither nor, or no something nor. We'll go over this pattern later on. No nor, okay? None of these, okay, he's experiencing in the UK. Now she says, oh my goodness, just recently, I think in the Philippines. 자, Philippines 할 때요, I think in Korean we say 필리핀, right? Without the yes. But always remember to say Philippines because we're talking about several small islands. And since it ends with an S, always say the Philippines, okay? Remember that. So, I think in the Philippines, they had one of the strongest typhoons this year. That's right. Very similar to a tsunami. It was a very strong typhoon. And she says, and I think the fatalities were in the really high numbers. So fatalities were high. Fatality, what is a fatality? Simply put, it can be defined as a disaster, something very dangerous, but it can also mean death of people caused by something. So you can talk about fatalities as in the number of people that actually died because of the strong typhoon. So the fatalities were in the really high numbers, okay? A lot of people died because of that. Well, he says, yeah, ran into thousands and thousands, meaning the number of people that died, yes, it ended up to thousands and thousands of people. And in that case, you know, there's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do because the country is a little bit underdeveloped in certain areas. So he's talking about helpless situations where you want to do something and you wish you could do something, but there's really not something you can do. Anyhow, he says, so you can't really avoid, 피해갈 수 없다는 말이죠. The flooding, okay? 홍수. There isn't the infrastructure in place. Infrastructure is like a base, a framework, a basic foundation or a structure, okay? To evacuate people quick enough. This is another bold type or a vocab word for today. Evacuate. Evacuation. 많이 들어보셨을 거예요. To evacuate means to pull out, to remove, for example. But especially, people are evacuated, or you could be told to evacuate a building, which means to leave the building, okay? Remove yourself from a place, to pull out for safety reasons, okay? 도피하다, okay? And that's the scary thing about natural disasters. That's right. What is scary? It's just out of your control. Out of your control. It means you cannot control it. If it's in your control, you can control it. But if it's out of your control, it is uncontrollable. You cannot control it. You can't really tell Mother Earth or Mother Nature, we're talking about Earth, what you want and what you don't want. So simply she's saying, yeah, there's really not much you can do, and that's why natural disasters are scary. You can't control them. You can't tell Earth, hey, do this, do that. 명령을 내릴 수 없기 때문에 그만큼 무서운 것이다 라고 얘기를 하는 거죠. Okay? So it's really hard. And the best thing to do, okay, let's take a look. The best thing to do is to prepare for it. Yes, preparation is always important. So if authorities tell you to evacuate, if they say evacuate everyone, you should. I know that lots of people find affinity to their homes. Now, affinity here is another word, another one of our vocab words for today. It means fondness, okay? Likeness for something, sympathy even. So if you grow to like something, okay, means affinity. You can have affinity for many things. They don't want to leave it because they find affinity to their homes. They don't want to leave it. But when the authorities say evacuate, okay, it's important to evacuate and be prepared. It's all about preparation. Listening to the authorities, watching the news, listening to the radio, and doing as people tell you to do, okay? If they say evacuate, then evacuate, but always be prepared in advance. Now, she says, just for the worst case scenario, just for the worst situations, be ready, be prepared. Now, Peter says, yeah, and in places that are hit, 강타하단 말이죠. Hit by earthquakes often or volcanic eruptions, okay? 지진, earthquakes or volcanic eruptions. I think it's good to have an emergency plan, okay? Do you, everyone out there, have an emergency plan? I've thought about setting one up, but no, I don't have an emergency plan. But yes, I do agree. It's very important to have an emergency plan, a plan of what to do. Where to go, for example, in an emergency is called an emergency plan. He says, be prepared and go through drills, means exercises, okay, and things like that. So this is very close to training, exercises. I think they do that in many schools in those areas. That's right. And they say it's a very good thing to do, meaning it's good practice. It's good to be prepared. Do these drills and exercises to help you learn about what you should do in the worst case situations. Of course, yeah, Peter says, yeah. So Peter's mentioned something about how many schools, they do these drills to, I guess, educate and train children to let them know what they should do in, emergency situations. Have you done that in school? I've done that in school too. We'll talk about what kids do in school later on in another lesson, but for now, let's take a listen to the conversation one more time.
A little bit out of the blue, Rachel, but have you ever experienced a natural disaster?
No, actually. I've been lucky enough that I've never had to experience like tornadoes or typhoons.
I thought there were quite a lot of tornadoes in the in America.
There
like hurricanes.
are. That's true. Maybe some strong torrential rainfall, but not anything like a hurricane where I live.
Oh wow.
Yes.
That's
but
amazing.
What about the UK? Are they in a geographically special location?
I think so. They're in a very safe zone because although we're famous for getting lots of rainfall, like London, it rains I think nearly half the year, but there's no extreme weather happenings or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's no natural disasters, no volcanoes or earthquakes or typhoons or hurricanes, nothing like that. So I think I was pretty fortunate because I see on the news that some of the effects of these natural disasters are terrible. Oh my goodness.
Just recently too, I think in the Philippines they had one of the strongest typhoons this year.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think the fatalities were in the really high numbers.
Yeah, running to thousands and thousands. And in that case, there's nothing you can do because the country is a little bit underdeveloped in certain areas,
right.
So you can't really avoid the flooding. There isn't the infrastructure in place to evacuate people quick enough.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing about natural disasters is that it's just out of your control. You can't really tell Mother Earth or Mother Nature, what you want and what you don't want. So it's really hard. And the best thing to do, I guess, is to prepare for it, right? So if authorities tell you to evacuate, I think you should. I know that lots of people find affinity to their homes and they don't want to leave it. But when the authorities say evacuate, it's important to evacuate and be prepared just for the worst.
Yeah, and in places that are hit by earthquakes often or volcanic eruption, stuff like that, I think it's good to have an emergency plan, like be prepared and go through drills and things like that. I think they do that in many schools in those areas.
It's a good thing, too.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Are you ready for today's actual expressions, some vocab words and patterns? Okay, let's get straight to it then. Now, torrential, it was mentioned in the beginning of today's actual talk conversation. There was something about torrential rainfall, right? So the pronunciation is torrential. Stress goes on the second syllable, and some synonyms are pouring, flowing fast, heavily with strong winds, for example. So pouring, flowing fast, violently, okay, or heavily even. And zone here is just another word for area, a designated area. So a divided area or a designated area. What about fatality? As you see, it can be pronounced both ways. I say fatality, okay? Fatality. You can also say fatality. 약간의 사운드죠? Fatality. 한 번씩 해볼게요. Fatality, fatality. So synonyms are casualty, accident, disaster, even death. So we're talking about death resulting from an accident, for example. Infrastructure, as I mentioned, it's the basic structure of an organization or even a system. So some synonyms are base or even framework, okay? Infrastructure. Evacuate, used as a verb. Evacuate means to pull out, to remove. Especially in an emergency situation, for safety reasons, it means to escape from an area, leave an area, evacuate, vacate, pull out, remove. And what about affinity? Affinity. This is kind of like a natural fondness or affection for somebody or something. 약간의 정하고 약간 비슷한 것 같기도 해요. So it's fondness, affection, even sympathy for something. Affinity. Okay, that's our final vocab word. Now, on to our patterns. The first one is out of the blue. Out of the blue. It was in the first sentence, I think. Now, out of the blue. Out of a clear blue sky means the same thing as well. It means kind of unexpectedly, suddenly. Let's check out some sample sentences. I got a call from my ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, 누구나 될 수 있겠죠? 자, 헤어진 사람이에요. X예요. Completely out of the blue. What does that mean? 갑자기, 예고 없이, unexpectedly, out of the blue, my ex called me. One more time. I got a call from my ex completely out of the blue. which means you did not expect to receive a call from your ex at all. Okay? What about this one? That was out of the blue. That was out of the blue. If somebody says something that kind of sounds random, that has nothing to do with what you are talking about, or if somebody does something totally unrelated to the situation you are in, you can say, wow, that was out of the blue. That was out of the blue, okay? Our next pattern is be famous for something. This is quite easy. Be popular for something, be well known for something. Tim is famous for being late for everything. 이것으로 잘 알려져 있다. Okay, Tim is famous for being late for everything. Meaning, Tim, he's known to be late. He's always late. And this one, what is she famous for? You can ask a question using famous for. What is she famous for? What is he famous for? What is that place famous for? What is that restaurant famous for? 그 음식점 뭐로 유명하니? 그 사람 뭐로 유명해? Okay? Be famous for something. What about this one? Now, this could be a bit tricky, although or not or is used, but here, not A nor B. No A nor B, or even neither A nor B, okay? We're talking about negatives. So an example is, it's not easy nor simple. 다 같은 문장이에요. They all mean the same thing. It's not easy nor simple, meaning it is difficult, okay? It's not easy nor is it simple, okay? Easy 한 것도 아니고 simple 한 것도 아니에요. Okay, what about this one? It's neither easy nor simple. Easy 하지도 않고 simple 하지도 않아요. So we're talking about negatives, and these three patterns are what you can use. This is proper grammar. Although people don't use it all the time. Okay, or nor 쓰이는 경우도 많지만 just to keep in mind, not A nor B, nor neither nor 써보세요. Okay, and here, let's go over one more. She neither drinks nor smokes. So, means she doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke. One more time. She neither drinks nor smokes. Got it? Okay. Here we go with one final pattern then. Now, be or go out of control, or be or get out of hand. Okay. It means uncontrollable. You cannot do anything about it. Now, to be out of control could mean that something or someone acts crazily or violently. It cannot be stopped. Here we go with this one. My CD player is out of control and playing tracks randomly. So, if something does not work by instructions or directions, you can say that it is out of control. Or you can say that an animal is out of control. Be careful, that dog sometimes gets out of control, meaning that dog could become violent sometimes. It could act crazily sometimes, so be careful. All right, and we have one more sentence. The twins got out of control. Again, 자, 무슨 말인지 아시겠죠? The twins got out of hand. Out of hand. They were acting crazily, okay? They wouldn't stop running around, screaming. So, we're saying that the two kids, they went crazy. They got out of hand. So these are our wonderful and useful patterns for today. Practice them more on your own.
Natural disasters, you have earthquakes, typhoons, forest fires, tsunamis. If you look at their reoccurrence lately, it seems to be happening more and more often. And a lot of this, at least from studies, seems to be somehow linked to climate change, the fact that the Earth is heating up. This is heating up our oceans, and basically this is causing more recurrence of typhoons. It's the heating up of the planet means it's becoming a drier planet, means forest fires are happening more and more often. Also, the oceans are getting saltier, which is something that's also affecting the amount of land that we can use, because we'll have less and less clean water or unsalted water to use for our crops.
Thank you for that wonderful actual story, for that wonderful response. Let's take you straight to it, okay? I've picked out 4 sentences for you. The first one is, of course, we're talking about natural disasters. He said you have earthquakes, typhoons, forest fires, tsunamis. These each are natural disasters, all right? So take a look at all 4 of them. If you look at their reoccurrence, re means again, meaning it occurs over and over again. It seems to be happening more and more often. That's true. These natural disasters such as earthquakes and tsunamis seem to be happening more and more often. And a lot of this seems to be somehow linked to climate change. Link to, or linked to, means connected to. They're related to each other, okay? Perhaps it's caused by. A lot of this seems to be somehow, in some way, linked to climate change. And one final sentence, the heating up of the planet, how the planet is getting warmer and warmer, means it's becoming a drier planet. 말라가고 있어요, which means forest fires are happening more and more often once again. So because of all these things caused by us, even human beings, caused by our day-to-day activities even, so we are destroying Earth. We are destroying our environment. So once again, it is our responsibility to protect it. But heating up of the planet, how the planet is getting warmer and warmer, is perhaps, means that the drier it is, the planet is drier, and thus, because of that, forest fires could happen. 산불이죠? Okay, so we see more and more of these natural disasters. Thank you for the wonderful job, and here we go at it once again.
Natural disasters, you have earthquakes, typhoons, forest fires, tsunamis. If you look at their reoccurrence lately, it seems to be happening more and more often, and a lot of this, at least from studies, seems to be somehow linked to climate change, the fact that the Earth is heating up. This is heating up our oceans, and basically this is causing more recurrence of typhoons. It's the heating up of the planet means it's becoming a drier planet, means forest fires are happening more and more often. Also, the oceans are getting saltier, which is something that's also affecting the amount of land that we can use, because we'll have less and less clean water or unsalted water to use for our crops.
Job well done, everyone. Thanks for sticking around till the very end of our lesson. Today we talked about natural disasters. Hopefully, the next time you have a chance to talk about today's topic, you'll know more to talk about. Practice the patterns. I hope you find them to be helpful. Next time we'll talk about accidents that happen at homes. Things you can do to prevent accidents at home will be mentioned in the actual talk as well. In the meantime, come to our homepage, find your way over to www.ebse.co.kr and look for Actual English. That is a wrap for today, everyone. Thanks for joining me. See you again next time. Bye for now.